And what I don't understand is, how is this crazy story of me being brainwashed and coached more believable than what I'm saying about being sexually assaulted by my father?
Of all the iconic actresses in Hollywood, Mia Farrow has lived a personal life that is full of stories that held the public eye for decades. But while much of the spotlight has often shone brightly upon Mia herself, her children found themselves entangled in the complicated web of celebrity, scandal, and mystery surrounding this family. One such figure happens to be. Most of Mia's daughter's adulthood has been at the center of various rumors, speculation of her past, speculation about personal demons, and rumors of her relationship with her iconic mother. But now, turning 39, it is time Mia Farrow's daughter breaks her silence and finally confirms what the world has been waiting to hear. Her name is Dylan Farrow, and she has barely been out of the public eye. Her life would be typically shaped by the fact that it would have been enough to show she had come from a family that was right in the view of the media means most of us could barely relate to. She was born in the limelight, with the overwhelming challenge of being part of one of the most talked about families in Hollywood. But more than the fame, the Farrow family has been painted with controversies that seem never to be forgotten in people's hearts. The rumors that implicated Dylan, most of them beginning with her childhood, were not only tabloid fodder, but very personal issues reaching deep inside the core of the darkest chapters of the family. Dylan said nothing for years, leaving the public to its speculation. But now, at age 39, she wants to set the record straight for herself. Finally, Dylan has put out her version of the story, an exceedingly rare glimpse into the tragic facts she was faced with and how they shaped the person she is today. While most of the bombshells speak to complicated relationships between her and Mia Farrow and infamous accusations that dogged the beginning of the 1990s. Although many thought such rumors had been left in the past, their confirmation of late by Dylan has started the conversations afresh and shone a light on the troubled history of the Farrow family. Dylan opens up about her life and delivers one key message: it has not been easy. Being the central figure of so many highly publicized scandals takes a serious toll on the emotional and psychological mind of this young lady. It had taken great strength and resiliency for Dylan to break her silence and once and for all confirm the very long-standing rumors, control her narrative in the process, and shine a light on the truth that has been hidden for such a long period. It's a video about the family dynamics of the Farrows, the rumors that have followed Dylan since she was a child, and her emotional decision to confirm what many had guessed for years. We go deep into the aftermath of her revelation in terms of family dynamics, just how different it has gotten in public perception, and all the life implications that come with such a grave confession. Rather, this is not the story of the daughter of Hollywood royalty, much more about the voice of a woman after years of silence. Much to be expected, as will be seen in this deeply personal, intricate account of the truth concerning those rumors crystallizing to clear, and exactly what that finally would mean to Dylan Farrow in confirming them. Early life and childhood in the spotlight. Dylan Farrow was born into lights, cameras, and constant scrutiny. The adopted daughter of the more famous actress Mia Farrow, she was anything but ordinary. From the time she came into the Farrow home, Dylan found herself smack in the middle of a family, surrounded by both fame and prestige, along with a later developed scandal. With one's mother being famous and a father figure of legendary filmmaking status, setting her up for an early life intertwined with the public's fascination with Hollywood's elite was almost inevitable. Yet, while the glamorous world of Hollywood beckons, it is the complex, often turbulent life that will leave its indelible mark behind closed doors. So her childhood was defined not just by the glare of public attention, but more importantly, by the intricacies of growing up in a large, high-profile family that contained both love and controversy. As she grew older, this complex upbringing began to reveal deeper layers, especially as rumors and allegations would eventually bring the Farrow family into the spotlight in ways that would haunt them for decades. For Dylan, such tensions at the center of this loudly public family were doubled by personal tribulations that would later define her both as a victim and as a survivor. Seeking to understand how Dylan's story went so awry, it is necessary to start with the woman who raised her, Mia Farrow. By the time Dylan entered her world, Mia had already gained a reputation as one of the most respected and iconic actresses in Hollywood. Her film roles in Rosemary's Baby, among others, and her work with then-partner Woody Allen had launched her career. But Mia Farrow was more than an actress. She was a humanitarian and an activist for children's rights, adopting several children from all over the world, often from deprived backgrounds. Mia's decision to adopt so many children spoke volumes of how deeply rooted she had desired to create a family, just as diverse as it would be large. Growing up in one of Hollywood's most famous families, her father was director John Farrow. Her mother, actress Maureen O'Sullivan, seemed to inspire her to provide a loving and nurturing environment for children who might otherwise never have had the chance. But while Mia's public persona was all grace, compassion, and strength, the dynamics of her household were considerably more complicated. In 1985, the adoption of Dylan Farrow added to Mia Farrow's famously large family, totaling 14 children, both biological and adopted. Dylan was first named Eliza before Mia later renamed her Dylan. She was adopted from Texas when only a few weeks old. So by this time, Mia had already adopted several kids, besides giving birth to some of her own, and was deep in the midst of her 2-decade-long relationship with Woody Allen. Growing up as a Farrow was peculiar and not without its challenges. On one hand, the family unit was tight-knit, with Mia reportedly pouring her heart into raising her children and giving them all the necessary care. She created a culturally rich and nurturing home environment filled with art, books, and music. On the other hand, with so many siblings from different backgrounds and experiences, it created a household that was both loving and sometimes chaotic. Added to the challenge of raising such a large family was Mia's commitment to adopting children from all over the world, many times from troubled backgrounds. Emotional and psychological problems came with some of the adopted children, adding to the challenges that Mia had to deal with as a single parent. Matters were further complicated by Mia's relationships, especially with Woody Allen. Allen became an adoptive father figure to Dylan during her early years, but was also a great source of tension, particularly as rumors and allegations of improper behavior began to surface. These dynamics would mold her early years and serve as a basis for the public controversies that would engulf the family in the coming years. In the early years of her life, Dylan's association with Mia is usually referred to as one in which love and attachment flourish. Mia boasted of motherhood and was frequently overheard proclaiming how much she adored Dylan, like all the other children. In interviews, she talked about how satisfactory it was rearing her children, and how she made the most of each day to provide an enabling atmosphere where all her children could thrive. With her children, neighbor, and adopted ones being the case, Mia had resolved to spend the maximum time in bringing them up, even after her acting career reached its top. In such big families, and due to personal issues as well, it was very common to experience difficulties in keeping good contact with all of one's children continuously. As rumors and accusations about Woody Allen began to unfold, the relationship between Dylan and Mia became infinitely more complicated. Mia was supportive of Dylan during the difficult times, especially as the public became aware of the allegations that Dylan would eventually confirm. The tension in their family's dynamic was palpable, but Mia deliberately chose to stand by her daughter and protect her from the media hysteria that was about to surround them. Mia represented the figure of a warm, nurturing mother in all the public perception, though in reality, Dylan and her siblings often faced tough times behind closed doors. Though Mia, by most accounts, was a loving and devoted mother, the challenges of parenting such an enormous and complicated family, along with the stresses of her public life and her scandal with Woody Allen, made their relationship one of deep love and undeniable strain. These complexities weighed heavy on Dylan for the rest of her life, forming her in ways she has only begun to reach now, at age 39. In many respects, this early relationship between Dylan and Mia set a course for the woman she would eventually become, resilient, introspective, and determined to reclaim her voice after all years of silence. The infamous scandal. A story about Dylan Farrow automatically links to one of the most notorious scandals in Hollywood history: accusations of sexual abuse involving her adoptive father, filmmaker Woody Allen. The controversy, initially coming to light back in the early 1990s, would shape the lives of Dylan, her mother Mia Farrow, and their entire family forever. The scandal originally began when Dylan was just a toddler. Although it has reconjured over the years, it created an emotional, psychological, and legal whirlwind that has never fully subsided. In 1992, the world was shocked when allegations surfaced that Woody Allen had committed sexual abuse against his then 7-year-old adoptive daughter, Dylan Farrow. These accusations came during the ugly breakup between Allen and Mia Farrow, who were in a romantic but never married partnership for over 10 years. They had a big, blended family of both biological and adopted children. But it all came crashing down when Mia found he was having an affair with her 21-year-old adopted daughter, Soon-Yi Preben. This revelation caused a deep fracture in the family and lit the fuse for a bitter custody battle over their shared children. The scandal then took a darker turn when, shortly after the affair was exposed, Dylan Farrow disclosed that Allen had sexually abused her in Mia's Connecticut home. As Dylan explained, the abuse occurred in the attic, where she became confused and scared and did not know how to handle what had just happened to her. Mia Farrow immediately took action, taking a video recording of Dylan's account of events and seeking out medical and psychological evaluations for her daughter. She also filed formal charges against Allen, starting an investigation that captured headlines everywhere for years. The accusations against Allen sent shockwaves through Hollywood and beyond. Known for his comedic genius and unique filmmaking style, and had long been a beloved figure in the entertainment industry. It is hard to reconcile such a monster with the neurotic, intellectual filmmaker so many had come to admire. Yet, to Mia and Dylan, these were not allegations about Hollywood or reputation, but about seeking justice due to a deeply traumatic event. The public and media response was fast, polarized, and visceral. Without the benefits and impediments of social media, it was the traditional press, tabloids, and television that took the leading role in influencing public opinion. The people were divided, those who were with Mia Farrow and believing Dylan versus those who believed in the innocence of Woody Allen, based on a vengeful plot from Mia to ruin Allen's career. Divided. Everything was scrutinized, right from Mia being a mother down to Allen's long-term relationships with his children. So the fact that Mia Farrow had taped Dylan's testimony became both a point of criticism and a tool in her defense. Detractors felt this was merely evidence of Mia coaching Dylan, while supporters felt this was Mia simply trying to make her daughter's voice be heard in a world that often silences its victims of abuse. Meanwhile, Dylan was to be the silent figure in the background throughout, his childhood unfolding under an oppressive cloud of suspicion and intense media scrutiny. He was too young, though, to understand fully the chaos surrounding him, yet his life had become the focus of a national debate about truth, power, and justice. Months now went by, and stories about this case ran daily in newspapers, magazines, and television talk shows. Public figures weighed in, and there was division in the air. Several high-profile Hollywood names still stood by Woody Allen, touting his work in film and questioning the credibility of the allegations. And others were quick to speak out against him, with words of support for Mia Farrow and her children. The nature of the pitted battle lines was to drag the whole Farrow family into the limelight and expose even Mia's other children to unwanted discomfiture. But with all this public drama, there was also much backstage going on, a complex battle in the court. It happened in two arenas, criminal and civil courts. This alleged sexual abuse of Dylan by Woody Allen sparked a criminal investigation by Connecticut authorities where the incident was said to have occurred. A team from Yale New Haven Hospital was brought in to investigate Dylan's allegations. And after months of interviews and scrutiny, they decided that indeed Dylan had not been molested. However, their findings were not without controversy. Much later, they were also criticized on grounds of opacity and for not including any direct testimony from Dylan herself. Decades of silence. Since the highly publicized scandal, which started at the beginning of the 1990s, Dylan Farrow has made a conscious decision to keep a distance from the limelight. For most of her life, she lived under the shadow of allegations, media attention, and public scrutiny, with each bit of family affairs torn to shreds. But the real reason Dylan went into hiding had less to do with the sensationalized scandal that hit the tabloids and more with the pounds and pounds of rumors that followed her everywhere. Essentially, Dylan was trying to live like a normal girl amidst situations that were anything but normal. After the controversy, Dylan attempted to exclude herself as much as possible from the Hollywood bubble. She distanced herself from the media, choosing to live in relative anonymity. The decision to retreat from view was not just wanting to withdraw for privacy, it was a mental health and personal well-being need. Dylan knew if she stayed in the limelight, it would be a constant barrage of questions thrown her way, probed into, and judged. The scandal that had racked her childhood had already been inordinately emotionally taxing, and Dylan was determined to end herself from further harm. But even as she retreated from the limelight, the rumors persisted. The public was never quite done with the story, nor were the tabloids. Speculation about her life, her family, and her relationship with Woody Allen never went away. Even in her absence, Dylan remained a figure of interest. With time, she would learn that no matter how she disappeared from view, the fascination of the media and the public would follow her wherever she went. In her desire to live a life full of normalcy, the weight of the past still hung over her like an albatross. Deep were the psychological wounds of the scandal. Dylan had been forced to endure, since early childhood, the impossible situation of being accused of being abused and being at the very center of a publicly charged situation. The psychological toll was very great. Not only was there the trauma itself of the accusations, but also the trauma of how people everywhere responded to it. Some people believed her, others did not. And being a young girl whose face millions might question the truth she lived, that was a devastation. Indeed, Dylan did speak often about her struggles in trying to come to terms with her past. This isn't because she was afraid of anything or more out of self-protection. She is fighting an emotional battle with trauma, confusion, and hurt feelings. Moving forward without addressing the rumors directly entailed that she could, for a time, avoid reliving the pain that had so much defined her early life. But age seemed to bring along with it a greater urgency to resolve the past. So the scandal didn't just hit her emotionally, it influenced her every relationship and career choice. Her public perception linked intricately with the accusation, one she struggled to find an identity outside of. As time went on, Dylan began to reach a realization of her own, that these rumors were something she needed to face so she could heal. But it would be many years before she broke her silence. Throughout all this, the one to remain steadily inside her corner was her mother, Miss Mia Farrow. Mia herself had been highly traumatized by the scandal and protected her daughter from any possible further harm. She was one of the first to believe Dylan's story and became her staunchest protector. To Mia, being a mother meant taking a stand for what she felt was the right thing and giving Dylan an emotional foundation from which to make it through such a tumultuous childhood. Like all parent-child relationships, the relationship between Dylan and Mia was complicated. On one hand, this fierce protection helped Mia get through the emotional aftermath of the scandal. Mia gave Dylan the emotional space and support he needed to step away from the limelight and lead a life that was as private as possible. On the other hand, the family's notoriety precluded moments of strain. More often, Dylan questioned how to continue forward with one public narrative so deeply intertwined with her family's identity. The complicated dynamics in their relationship also meant that Dylan needed to find her way forward. While Mia continued to be an extremely supportive figure in her life, the path to healing was solely Dylan's. It was something she would have had to come to grips with in due course in her own sweet time, if you will, with the rumors regarding her family. So undoubtedly, the presence of Mia was a solace, but breaking her silence years later was a deeply personal decision on Dylan's part and need to reclaim her narrative. Decades after the scandal, Dylan Farrow worked at rebuilding her life away from the media spotlights. She fought the demons of depression, clung to her mother's support, and with time grew into a woman who would not let the ghosts of her past define her. As much as the rumors followed her, Dylan's years were marked by silent growth, in which she was preparing herself for that one moment when she would, at last, go to fight her history and present the truth in front of the world, breaking her silence. The name Dylan Farrow has been synonymous with the stuff of whispered speculation, its origin tied to one of Hollywood's most notorious scandals. Despite that fact, Dylan kept quiet for most of her life, creating a life for herself far away from the prying eyes of society. Now, after years of trauma, media attention, and confusion over what happened to her, she made perhaps the pivotal act to speak and confirm what many have speculated for 2 decades. So this was not an overnight decision on Dylan's part. It was several agonizing years of soul-searching and pursuit of justice that led to this. Multilayered and strictly personal motives lay behind the reasons why the silence was broken. The major reason, however, had to do with the healing of her psyche. For many years, Dylan had carried with herself the burden of the experience and tried to move on with her life being kept well away from the media spotlight. The silence had to break in her late 30s if she wanted to reclaim her story and have real closure. Then there is the cultural shift brought on by the Me Too movement. It was in the late 2010s that several survivors of abuse began to speak out and tell their stories and point fingers at some powerful people. Dylan watched other women come forward with their truths, many of which validated her own experience. This greater movement likely gave her the courage and strength to face her past in a very public manner, knowing the cultural landscape had shifted and would indeed be more receptive to stories like hers. Public pressure mounted for years, too, as the media and the public continued to revisit the scandal. People had at one point or another urged Dylan to tell her side, but where early resistance gave way to growing curiosity and the growing support of advocacy groups likely pushed her toward the decision to speak out. But more than anything, there was an urgent need for justice. Years had gone by, basically with Dylan feeling nobody could hear her when she had one of the most talked about stories. She validated all those rumors to correct this narrative, take some accountability, and bring justice to the suffering she had to endure. In the heart-rending expose, Dylan confirmed the allegations that had haunted her since she was a child, that she was abused by Woody Allen, her adoptive father, when she was still a young girl. These are allegations that first surfaced back in the 1990s, but were mired in a complicated legal battle, public denial, and media spin. The claims at that time were widely dismissed, leaving Dylan without the public acknowledgement that she so desired. By speaking out, Dylan confirmed the details of her experience, underlining those moments that for years were buried beneath the scrutiny of media attention. She described the trauma she endured, the manipulation of those people around her, and the isolation that one gets from living with a secret no child should have to bear. She also communicated that speaking out was not only for herself but on behalf of all other survivors of abuse who have been silenced or completely ignored. The testimony by Dylan in interviews and also in writing is no less than heart-wrenching. One of the strongest aspects of her revelation is the outright vulnerability with which she speaks. In one touching extract, she emotively expressed herself with emotion, "I have been living with this for most of my life, in silence, in pain, in fear, but no more. I refuse to be silent any longer. My story deserves to be heard, and so do I." With words like these, the intensity of the emotional battle she went through before coming out into the open to share her story is better captured. It captured the strength needed to face her past publicly. In another interview, she let her guard down and spoke about what it has taken to carry this burden all these years. I spent years thinking it was my fault, that somehow I had done something wrong. But I realize now I was just a child, and none of this was my fault. It is that she was able to reflect upon her experience with pain, now new with clarity, that allows the world to see the full trauma she endured and the bravery that came in confronting it. With her break into the silence, Dylan Farrow managed to confirm the rumors but freed her way to healing both for herself and for people in similar circumstances. Aftermath. When the rumors from decades ago were finally corroborated by Dylan Farrow, the response was heavy, broad, and instant. It was no longer a family affair, but a public event that once again threw the Farrow family into the media glare. The confirmation sent shockwaves through and outside Hollywood, starting discussions about trauma, accountability, and the complicated dynamics associated with fame and family. Public opinion was sharply divided upon Dylan's confirmation. The support for her finally saying something was overwhelming from the majority. In the spirit of the #MeToo movement, which had emboldened countless women and men into sharing their own stories of abuse, Dylan's revelation felt like a poignant reminder of the importance of listening to survivors. People came out to support her, commending her for being so brave and clapping for finally confirming what many had been hoping to confirm, since one could only imagine how hard it must have been to face her harrowing past. To many, Dylan was the embodiment of survival and strength. All were very supportive, though. Some members of the public remained skeptical, questioning the timing of her revelation and doubting the truthfulness of the claims. Due to the high-profile nature of the allegations against a Hollywood titan like Woody Allen, many questions were raised regarding the truth behind the confirmation of Dylan. Some of Allen's fans and defenders accused her of being an attention seeker or of being manipulated by her mother, Mia Farrow, into lying about such a story. Honest ambivalence of the group to believe Dylan underlined the complex nature of public reactions to allegations of abuse, especially when they implicate beloved public figures. In the wider media, it was also a mixed bag. Confirmation of molestation allegations received comprehensive coverage in major news outlets, with some giving voices to survivors and advocates, while others framed it more cautiously as part of the ongoing word battle between Dylan and Allen. The MeToo context gave a critical background to discussing this matter, while Dylan's story wove itself into larger cultural reappraisal regarding power, its abuse, and how survivors were treated in the public domain. Dylan's confirmation also sent ripples into her family relationships, particularly in relations with Mia Farrow and her siblings. Mia, who had taken the side of Dylan through her life so far, was vocal in continued support. Mia herself had taken center stage in the original allegations, having brought them to light back in the 1990s. The confirmation on Dylan's part only sealed what Mia had believed for years and perpetuated her role of stalwart defender of her daughter. The reactions of Dylan's siblings were more mixed. While some siblings, such as Ronan Farrow, have been very outspoken and unwavering in public support for Dylan, others have simply chosen not to be as visible. Ronan is an investigative journalist himself, to a great extent spearheading work on the Me Too movement. He has made sure to clarify that he believes his sister and is on her side. A long time ago, he became an ally in her quest for justice. Often, he speaks out against Allen in public and stands in support of the decision of Dylan to speak out. Other siblings, though, remained more tight-lipped. Some are said to have stepped away from the public fight, which would put them in the uncomfortable position of having to align against their sister, Woody Allen, with whom some continued a relationship. It drove a wedge into their family, further making dynamics very tense. The big, multifaceted Farrow family now seemed divided on which way to go forward. Some siblings stayed silent or neutral, while others showed full support for Dylan. Well, it wasn't long after Dylan's confirmation that Woody Allen himself had something to say. For years and years, he had vehemently denied the allegations, proclaiming his innocence and also describing the charge as a deliberate attempt by Mia Farrow to ruin his career. In the wake of Dylan's new revelations, Allen reiterated these denials, categorically false, he said, claiming the charges had been fully investigated back in the 1990s with no charges filed. The reaction of Allen to the news did not come as a shock and convinced nobody either way. To his fans, it was just another declaration of innocence, while to his detractors, it was an example of how the deck so often stacked in favor of abusers in positions of power. Though he protested to the contrary with words, Allen's reputation had taken a hit in recent years, with many standing distance from him, including actors who previously worked with him. Certainly, his legacy as a filmmaker remains in question, since more began to see his career through the lens of the allegations. Dylan's confirmation had only deepened the chasm between the partisans who considered him the victim of false allegations and the partisans who believed he must be held accountable. Conclusion. Asian undeniable complexity convolutes the story of the Farrow family. First, there is Mia Farrow and her long, accomplished acting career, not to mention her humanitarian work. Then again, her life has been shadowed by the scandal with Woody Allen and allegations against her daughter, Dylan Farrow. The scandal forever branded the world's understanding of Mia the family fund, mother of 7. Advocate extraordinaire offensive notwithstanding. Accusations, courtroom battles, and public statements have followed her everywhere, but in doing so, they helped to create an image, a family torn apart by trauma. And that's the legacy more complicated for Dylan to try to navigate. She has remained a victim at the center of a very sad story, but her role in the family's public face has continued to evolve over the years, from a scandal-plagued child to a woman seeking justice. So one of the most distinctive features of Dylan Farrow's struggle for adult justice and activism was the fact that, since confirming the rumors and allowing her story to be told publicly, she has emerged as a powerful voice for survivors of abuse. The decision to speak out, especially in the context of the Me Too movement, helped change the way that public discourse about abuse, power dynamics, and accountability does and should take place. She showed the importance of believing survivors with her platform, while the courageous stand inspired more people to come out. With various interviews, essays, and public speaking, Dylan has shed light on topics that are usually left in the dark.